Today on Stock Charts in Focus, we're getting colorful, showing you how to bring your charts to life with color schemes in both SharpCharts and ACP. Now, this is a great way to customize your charts, really make them your own, really make them unique. But as you're going to see on the show, this is also a great way to build color and some visual differences into your process. We're going to talk about how to use color schemes to differentiate between different security types, different time frames, lots of very cool ways to work color schemes into your process. So, of course, you know what it is. It's all new. It's all here. It's Stock Charts in Focus. All right, my friends, welcome to the show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on the channel where we dig into the site, dive into the features, show you around the tools, and ultimately help you get more value out of stock charts. That's our mission here on this show. Every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, also up on our YouTube channel after that, and the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. Lots of different ways to watch. I'm your host for the show. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. So good to be with you as always. Always fun when we get to do something unique. And today's show, I think, is really going to be unique. Now, color schemes may seem like a simple thing on the surface, just a little piece of the setup process when you're going through and creating your charts. But we're going to take this to the next level. What we're going to do with color schemes is talk about how to actually make this part of your process. This is a little mental trick that I've shared with a lot of people over the years, and today I'm going to share it with you. What we're going to do on the show, as you're going to see, is talk about how to use color schemes as part of that process by applying different color schemes for different things that you're charting. Now we're going to talk, for instance, about how to use different color schemes for different security types. We'll also talk about using different color schemes for different time frames. There are lots of different ways that you can use this, but it's a great way to take advantage of those visual differences between the charts that color schemes can provide. So without further ado, let's jump over to the site and get charting. All right, everyone. So our first stop on today's tour is actually going to be in SharpCharts. We're going to start in SharpCharts. After we're done over here, we're going to jump over to ACP, talk about some of these concepts over there. Now, we're going to be talking about how to use color schemes in some creative ways. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you're aware of what color schemes are, how to put them onto your charts, how to apply these, and then how to actually save those to your charts. This is a very, very important piece of being a Stock Charts member, being a Stock Charts user. One of the most important things that you can do really is setting up your charts and then saving those to what we call chart styles. These are chart templates. You can think of them that way. They're chart templates that you can come back to in the future. You can create lots and lots of them. And as you'll see, this is how you can start to use some of these color schemes in some creative ways. We're starting here on SharpCharts with a very, very simple chart. Here we've just got a classic chart, white background, white borders. We've got some simple colored lines, just black and red. This is a very, very stripped out chart. Now, this is one that you might be familiar with, maybe one that a lot of you are using. And there is tremendous value in this chart. It really kind of keeps you focused just on what's in front of you. In this case, we've just got the candlesticks, two indicators. We've got price and the RSI, price relative and the RSI down at the bottom. We do have volume on this as well, but we've actually got no moving averages. This is a very, very clean chart. But there's a lot more that you can do with the color scheme options in both SharpCharts and in ACP. So first and foremost, we're going to scroll down here to the bottom of the SharpCharts workbench, as we call it. And in the chart attributes section, we are going to look for the color scheme menu. Now you'll see that this by default is set to default. But when you open up this menu, you have quite a few options in here. Scattered throughout this menu is a mix of light color schemes, which would be something like a white background or a beige background, something that's kind of a lighter color. And we also have dark themes that are a mix of darker color schemes, darker backgrounds, darker borders, and kind of indicator color patterns, all of that. So the first stop on today's tour is really just to kind of explore this. Now, we're not going to go through all of these color schemes, but we will flip through a few of them just to kind of show you how this works. Very, very easy. All you've got to do is select the color scheme that you want. and it's actually going to reload that chart right away. So in this case, we've now made a small little improvement, little enhancement, little change to the chart. We've selected the blue-gray color scheme, and you're going to see that that does a few things for us. If you are paying attention closely, you'll notice that some of the colors on this chart have changed. We've been left with our white background, but we now have this blue border around the chart. We also have, though, different colors for the volume indicator, different colors actually down here for the RSI as well. So a few of the indicator colors, in addition to kind of the chart border, have changed. So we can start to flip through a couple more of these. Blue-gray is one that I always love. We can get into some of those darker schemes, for instance, dark blue. Again, this is going to bring in, like we mentioned, some of those darker backgrounds, darker themes. If you're into kind of dark charts, black charts, darker background charts, this is one that you might be interested in. You'll notice that we've had another kind of color flip. Again, this price relative line at the top of the screen, for instance, has now changed to kind of that burnt orange. We've got back to green and red for our volume bars. The RSI has turned blue. So we've got lots and lots of these different color schemes to play with. So first and foremost, even if you don't go to the next level, as we're going to do on today's show, definitely spend a little bit of time playing around with this color scheme menu, figuring out which ones work for you, whether you want that light background, whether you want a dark background, whether you want a really bright and colorful chart or something that's a little more stripped out. There is a huge mix of different color schemes in here. We've also got some, though, that are in the middle. So for instance, we've got something like Murphy, which is a pretty stripped out chart. It's not the full blanked out default chart that we had up on the screen at first, but this is a pretty basic chart. Just brings in kind of that light gray border, leaves a lot of the indicator colors, in green and red, kind of the traditional scheme there. This is based on John Murphy's preferences. That's why it is called the Murphy scheme. And this is actually the one that I love to use in most of my charting. I find that it's just colorful enough to make my charts really kind of feel like my own, but it's not too much color to kind of get in the way for me visually. So color schemes are all about finding what works for you, what your preference is. And fortunately, you've got lots and lots of options to play around with down in that color scheme menu. Now, once you have customized your chart, once you've set the color scheme that you want, and not just that, but all of the other settings around here in the workbench. That includes the period of the chart, the range of the chart. So, what period you want, daily, weekly, intraday chart, any of that stuff. How much data you want, that's what we call the range. So in this case, you can see I've set this up with 1 year and 6 months. That's a time frame that I like to use, 18 months on my charts. Everything else that goes in here, though, all the overlays, the indicators, all of the colors that you've set for that, the different settings and parameters and everything, all of that can be saved into what we call a chart style. In StockCharts speak, that is what we call basically a chart template, as we described there early on. So when you create a chart and you've got all those settings and you want to come back to those in the future, you're going to want to save that as a chart style. Now, if you look just above that chart attributes block here on the StockCharts workbench, on the SharpCharts workbench, you can see that we've got a line right here that says chart styles. So this is one of the ways that you can access your chart styles, but it's also how you're going to start saving these to your accounts. Very, very easy to do. If you do want to pull up any of your saved chart styles, you've got those accessible right here. You also have some samples in this menu as well down at the bottom. But when you've created that chart, as we've done, let's say we wanted to actually set this back to something like our dark blue just for fun. We wanted to start really getting funky with it. We're going to set that up. We're going to customize this chart with all the settings that we want. And then we're going to come up here to that chart styles row. And if we want to save this as a chart style, we're going to hit add new. Now you can see that's going to populate with new chart style. We can do our great chart style here as our name, whatever you want to set the name to. There's lots of different ways you can name these charts. I personally like to put in sort of what the style of it is, what it's for, and maybe the period as well. But you can give that any name that you want. You hit add, and there you go. This is now, as you can see, saved to your account. You can now come back to this in the future. If you ever need to update it, you can make any changes that you want down here on the workbench, then come up here and hit replace. Select the one that you want to replace and just hit that little replace button. So let's say you wanted the RSI to be above. So we're going to change that here on the workbench. Now we've got the RSI, you can see, positioned above at the top of this chart. We still have our color scheme, but maybe we wanted to switch that. Maybe we wanted this to be something like, we'll do vanilla, or actually one of my favorites here in SharpCharts, we'll do the sunset color scheme. You can set that and now come here to this replace button. We can select the one that we had up there, our great chart style down at the bottom of this menu, hit replace, and there we go. We've now updated that chart style that we had saved to our account. If we ever wanted to change the name of it, maybe we wanted to name this super great chart style, we just got to hit that little edit properties menu and then update that name and hit save, and there we go. If we did want to delete this from our account, we also have that option right here. So very, very easy to interact with your chart styles in this little line here, sort of at the top of the SharpCharts workbench settings area. Now, one other place that I do want to highlight before we move over to ACP, take a look at some of these concepts over there. We do have this chart styles menu on the far left. So first and foremost, if you were paying attention, you might have seen in some of those menus that we were just clicking, there was something that said button, allowed us to actually set a button number. Those are what we call style buttons, and that's what is appearing over here on the left side of my screen. Now, I've set this up with some of my favorite chart styles, some of my go-tos, but these style buttons allow you to very quickly access any of the saved chart styles from your account. So you can see the little names populate in there. There's what I was talking about. I've got the sort of what it's for and the period in here in the name of a lot of my chart styles. So for instance, I've got chart styles for intraday charts and ETFs. I've got weekly charts, I've got daily charts, all the ones that are kind of my go-tos. I've saved those as style buttons. Makes it very easy to access any of those. But you also have the option of actually opening up this menu. A nice little hidden gem here on the workbench that a lot of people don't know about. You can open up this chart styles menu on the left side of the screen. This gives you a full list of all the chart styles in your account, everything that you have saved. As you can see, I have saved a ton in my own account, but this also gives you access to those predefined chart styles that I mentioned, which are at the bottom of that other menu that we had open. So this is kind of a more full-featured view of all of your chart styles. You can see that, and you can actually drag these chart styles from down here, further down in the menu. You can drag those up, and anything above this little buttons row is going to be one of your style buttons. Vice versa, you can drag any of these down if you want to remove them as style buttons. You do have the edit option here as well, which allows you to delete things, make anything your default, again, move things around. So you got a lot of options to play around with in this little menu over on the left. So that is a quick whirlwind tour of chart styles, are kind of starting from the color scheme perspective. So remember, when you set up your charts and stock charts, if you want to come back to those, including the color scheme, all you got to do is save those as chart styles. That's going to be very, very important for our discussion moving forward when we talk about using these color schemes as part of your process for different security types and different time frames. So let's jump over to ACP. We'll take a look at how this works over there, and then we'll talk about how to bring these chart styles into your process. All right, everyone, so here we are now in ACP. This, of course, is our advanced charting platform. We're going to take a look at those same concepts with color schemes and chart styles here in ACP, and then we'll talk about how we can start to use these color schemes in some pretty creative ways. So we're starting off with a very similar chart there. Same one that we started out with. We've got the Freeport McMoran chart with just kind of a stripped out view. This is our classic style. Everything is white. It is a very, very simple view on the screen. Same set of indicators as well. Here in ACP, all of those same concepts that we were looking at in SharpCharts also apply with the same lingo as well. Chart styles, you save those to your account. You can come back to them as chart templates. You've got a default. That's going to be kind of the one that gets saved when you save charts, if you're saving things from a list. So all of those same concepts you're familiar with over in the SharpCharts world, that all applies here in ACP as well. So the same concept also goes with your indicators. You're going to set up your chart with all the different settings that you want here in the chart settings menu, but you're also going to set up this chart with a specific color scheme. So here in ACP, everything kind of happens over on the left side of the screen in these menus that pop out. And you can close these down if you want a little bit more room for your charting, but by default, this is going to be open on the left. The second menu down, second icon down, is going to be the color schemes menu. Now this is going to be very similar to SharpCharts, but here in ACP actually we have quite a few more color schemes. We've introduced some new ones. This has been kind of a test ground for color schemes here. We're planning to bring a lot of those over to SharpCharts, and we're going to continue adding more really in both worlds. But here in ACP, you do have access to pretty much all of those same SharpCharts color schemes as well. Now with this menu, we've broken it up into kind of those three groups that we were talking about instead of putting everything just in one menu. So down at the bottom, we do have some specialty schemes. These DP schemes were created by the Decision Point team. We also have one that is for color vision impaired folks as well. So some interesting ones in that group. But then we get into our light schemes and also our dark schemes. Now these menus are collapsible, as you can see, but this is a nice way to kind of break it up visually, having the little separation in these menus. The same thing goes. We have a huge collection, as you can see, huge collection of these color schemes, and it's really about figuring out what is best for you. You know, we can flip through a couple of them. We've got some color schemes that have been pulled over from the SharpCharts world. For instance, here is that blue-gray scheme that we were looking at. We've got our Murphy scheme that we were looking at over in SharpCharts as well. But we've got some totally new ones, something like agate, for instance, which is basically a white chart with a border around it. You'll see that that's actually a theme that we use a lot in here in ACP. We've got something like gentian, which is a blue border around that white chart. We've got some others that get pretty crazy. Ice cream, which is kind of a beige chart. I love the view of this, especially for charting later at night, a little easier on the eyes, kind of a mix of that dark and light in a way. We've got some very cool ones like Malibu and Miami. Monochrome is actually a very cool one, kind of getting it back to that simple chart, but you'll see that this actually sort of grays out all of your indicators, just keeps everything nice and simple for you. Sand is a really cool one, so a ton of these to play around with. We also have a ton of dark schemes as well. Even more dark schemes here in ACP than we have in SharpCharts. This has been an area that we've really expanded. So we've got some that are kind of related to those light schemes. So something like Gentian Midnight, which is basically a black chart with a blue border. We've got something like Molecule or Morgan or Night. We've got tons and tons of these to play around with. So your first step is going to be to explore all of these different schemes that we have here in ACP and pick the ones that feel best to you. So let's say you liked, for instance, this blue-gray scheme. You get this chart set up exactly the way that you want it, all the colors, all the settings, the indicators, everything that you want. You're then going to want to save that as a chart style, just like we did in SharpCharts. So here in ACP, to do that, to save and manage all of your chart styles, you're going to go over to the left side of the screen, and the next icon down is going to be that little paintbrush. So we're going to open up that paintbrush menu, and you'll see that we are now in the chart styles area, the chart styles sidebar. So we can do a couple of things in here. First and foremost, we actually have a ton of sample styles built for you. So there's that sample styles block at the top, but we've also got some sample chart styles for strategies, for time frames. We've got some that are built by the experts that are around StockCharts TV and our blogs and everything. So lots and lots of different styles that you can play around with, trading styles, lots in here that you can actually use kind of as a starter. Once you've customized everything though, and you are ready to save that to your own account, you've got the Your Styles block up at the top. So you can see this is where all of your saved styles will be. Again, in my account, I have tons and tons of these. I've saved a lot of chart styles here in ACP. But once you've set up this chart exactly the way that you want it, really easy to save these chart styles. All you've got to do, look for the bottom of this panel, and at the bottom there's going to be a button that says Save Chart Style. Now, once you open up this little menu here that pops up in the middle of the screen, you got a couple of different options similar to what we did there in SharpCharts. You can set a name for your chart style and hit Save Chart Style right there to save that as a new one. If you do have a chart style that you are updating, so if you've clicked on a chart style that you already have in your account, you want to make some changes to that, maybe modify some indicators or change a color scheme, you can come in here, hit Save Chart Style again, and then make sure that you have selected that Update Existing. From here, you can select anything from the list, so all of your existing chart styles, and you can just update one of those in just a couple of clicks. So very, very easy to start working with these. So now, by the way, one other little thing, when you are in here in the Your Styles menu, if you do want to update the name of something or if you want to delete it, you have those options right here. You can hit the Edit Style button or delete it. You've got some of those editing options right in here. Just hover over the chart style name and you'll see that available to you. To set your default, by the way, all you got to do is hit the little star. So you see that when I hover over that little star, it kind of lights up. The one that is starred as yellow, that is going to be your default chart style here in ACP. So a quick tour of how things work here in ACP. Now that we've gotten that tour out of the way, let's talk business. Let's talk about how to use these color schemes in some pretty creative ways. Again, this is a trick that I've shared with a lot of people, a little kind of StockCharts process trick that I've told a lot of people about, and it's a very cool one. Again, you have tons and tons of these color schemes available to you. And really, when I think about color schemes, when I think of the value of them, it's a couple of things. One, it's just making your charts your own. It's really giving you an opportunity to customize these charts, build up something that's going to sort of feel your own. It's not just a couple of things on a screen. It's really kind of a chart that you have created that makes a lot of sense to you. Just like we customize our indicators and our overlays and the position and the time frame, color scheme is very much a part of that as well. So I find that customizing the color scheme of your charts is a great way to make them feel like your own, really feel like you have a sense of ownership over those charts and what you've created. Now, color schemes also, though, are visual differences. When you look at a white chart, when you look at a blue chart, when you look at a black chart, they are visual differences. You can kind of instantly, obviously, see those differences between those charts. So when we take that concept of kind of seeing things differently on the screen and we apply that to the different things that we're trying to analyze out there in the markets as investors, as traders, that's where we can sort of combine these concepts. Now, I would say when you're looking at a daily chart, a weekly chart, a monthly chart, maybe an intraday chart, you're thinking about those a little bit differently, right? You want that to stand out to you. You don't want to be looking at the daily chart with the weekly chart kind of mindset in mind. You want to be thinking about those things just a little bit differently. Not completely differently, but a little bit differently. So we can use color schemes to create some of that visual difference in our charts. To demonstrate this really quickly, we're actually going to use the multi-chart layout feature of ACP. So I'm going to hit the plus sign a couple of times here to add 4 charts to the screen. We're going to set this up very quickly with an intraday chart. Let's do a 5-minute intraday chart in the top left. We will do our daily chart in the top right. We will do a weekly chart down here in the bottom left and in the bottom right. We're going to create this with a monthly chart. So what we've basically done now is created gallery view in some sense. If you're familiar with that gallery view tool that we have outside of ACP, that allows you to see one symbol in a whole bunch of different time frames. So you could do this. If this makes sense to you, having everything in the same color scheme, everything kind of look the same. You've got your intraday, your daily, your weekly, and your monthly up on the screen all at once. They're all using the same color scheme. To me, this kind of runs together a little bit. If it makes sense to you, more power to you. But personally, I would like to create a little bit of a visual hierarchy, visual differences between some of these charts. Now, we might have different indicators and different overlays between them, but I want to make it really clear what I'm looking at. So this is where we're going to start to bring in color schemes. So we'll click on this intraday chart. We'll start with this one. Now, we might want our intraday chart to be dark. That's kind of the classic trading style, right? We think of those dark backgrounds. So let's say we're going to make this the night chart. Oh, now we got to come in here and select our up color. We'll make that gray so that it stands out a little bit more. So there we go. We've now got our dark chart. And every time we see a dark chart, we're going to know that that is an intraday chart. We'll leave our daily chart alone. Maybe we want that one to be the blue. We'll come down here, though, to our weekly chart. Now, we might want our weekly chart to be a slightly different color scheme. Let's say we want to stick with that blue theme. So we'll come down here to the light schemes. We've got one that I personally like called blue. So we might set up our weekly chart with a lighter blue border. Now we'll come over to our monthly chart and we'll set this up with, maybe go with the sea green. This is a nice looking one. Always like that one for my monthly charts. So now up on the screen, we've got the exact same thing. We've got an intraday chart, we've got a daily chart, a weekly chart, and a monthly chart. But we've set up each of these charts with a little bit of a visual difference. We've got different color schemes applied to each one of these. Now, you could save these as chart styles, and so every time you pull up your weekly chart and you see that light blue border, it's going to kind of put you into that weekly chart mindset. It's going to instantly flip you into that mindset. Every time you pull up a chart that's got that green border, you're going to know that that is your monthly chart style, so you're going to sort of flip yourself into that monthly mindset. This, I find, is a great way to just kind of help yourself get between those different modes a little more easily. Instead of having everything always be, a basic white chart or a gray border or something like that, having these subtle little color differences between your charts of different time frames is a really, really nice way to kind of build some of that in visually to your charts. So that is really kind of our demo of how to start baking in these color schemes to your different charts. Again, we've walked through how to save these as chart styles. So, when you come in here and you want to save, for instance, your monthly chart to a chart style, you're doing the exact same thing. You're coming over to that chart styles panel, hitting that save chart style. Maybe you're going to give that a name with monthly in the title, whatever you're going to do. But the idea here is that you're actually setting up those different charts of different time frames with different color schemes in each chart style. Now we can take this concept and expand it. Maybe we want all of our charts of the different time frames to be the same color, but maybe we want to think about different security types in a different way. When we're looking at an individual stock, we want to think one way. When we're looking at an ETF, maybe we want to think a little bit differently. When we're looking at an index, it's not going to be tradable, or a crypto that we're going to consider in a very different way. Maybe we want those to be kind of our difference makers. So we could take this same concept of different chart styles, different color schemes. We could apply that to different security types. You'll actually see if I open up my styles menu, I've got my chart styles personally organized by security type. So we've got security type and period, but you can see that I've got all of my equity styles together. So when I'm looking at an individual stock, I've got one set of indicators, one color scheme, all of that. I've got separate chart styles for ETFs because I want to look at those in a slightly different way. Down here below, I've got some more for different purposes, different index ETFs, for instance. I've got index monthly. I've got a whole bunch of these saved in my account. And over in SharpCharts, I actually have the exact same thing. So you might want to create some of these different chart styles for different security types. And you might want to have each one have a different color scheme so that when you see one of those chart styles, when you pull up one of those charts, you kind of quickly, instantly flip right into that mindset. The color scheme can kind of help you get there a little more easily. So using color scheme to really differentiate sort of the pieces of your process, I find it's a great way, again, to just flip your mindset really quickly. Instead of having to kind of think things through when you pull up a chart, you can really kind of have the color scheme of that chart help you get there. Now, one other thing that I wanted to point out here in ACP, a cool little thing that we've done. You might like having that white background for all of your charts. You might not want to have a white background for one and a beige background for another and a dark background for a third one. So what we've actually built with a lot of these color schemes is basically just a colored border, but always around a white chart. You're seeing that here with these three charts. If we pulled up something else like, for instance, we've got oak is another one that's got that same kind of style. So now we're looking always at a white chart, but with a colored border. So that's a nice way to kind of keep things slightly consistent, but just a little bit different. And we've got, as you're actually seeing here with our daily and our weekly chart that's up on the screen, we've got some that are, different shades of green. You're actually seeing that here with the intraday and the monthly as well. Some of these color schemes that have, different shades of green around the border, different shades of red around the border, different shades of blue around the border. We've also got that with gray, which is a nice one. So, the agate color scheme and the Murphy color scheme are both kind of that gray border style. So that's another nice thing to go play around with. In whatever way you want to find to use these color schemes, there's plenty of ways out there to use it. But again, kind of building them into your process, using these color schemes to help you differentiate between timeframes or even differentiate between different security types. It's a great way to really kind of give these color schemes a place in your process and let them help you, again, flip that mindset pretty quickly. Makes it a nice kind of visual difference between those chart styles that you have saved in your account. So that is our show for today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this tour of chart styles, this tour of color schemes. Hopefully this has helped give you a sense of how you can incorporate some of these different tools and features into your process. Also giving you a little bit of a sense of SharpCharts versus ACP. Always fun when we get to compare and contrast these two platforms. So I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's show. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. It's been great to be with you for another episode of StockCharts in Focus. Again, we'll be back next Friday for another edition. But until then, chart on, my friends.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.